The Federal Electoral Council here has just lifted what's known as the broadcast ban, meaning we are able to start sharing some of those initial results for you. So I'm going to go through what we have. The initial results show that with 17% of the vote counted, it is a sizable lead for President Erdogan. He's currently sitting on just under 56% of the vote. His main opponent, Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu, 38% of the vote. And then the third-party candidate, Erdogan, is on 5.37. I think the two numbers we need to look at are Erdogan and Kılıçdaroğlu. Erdogan has clearly got a lead right now over that crucial 50% mark. What we should say is that we believe that those are largely rural and farming community voting centres. They are smaller booths where the votes have been able to be counted quicker. President Erdogan traditionally has done very well in those areas, so I would take those results with a little bit of a grain of salt. We really do need to wait for some of the bigger cities to come in. Istanbul, Ankara, Izmir, Kayseri, that is when we will get a clearer picture of whether he'll be able to hold on to that lead. I mean, to give you an idea, 1 in 6 Turkish voters are here in Istanbul, so we do just have to wait a little bit. But certainly, I think if you're in the Erdogan camp right now, you would be pleased to see those numbers. As I say, just almost 56% of the vote right now going to Erdogan, 38% for his main opponent.
And the polls had been pretty tight, hadn't they, in the lead-up to the vote? Turnout always pretty high as well in Turkish elections. Do we know this time if that's the case?
We're still awaiting initial turnout figures, but what I can tell you is traditionally about 85% of Turks will turn out in elections. There were some expectations that number could get closer to 90% this election. Certainly anecdotally, from what I was seeing in Istanbul today, there were enormously long lines, and we've heard reports of people still lining up after the polls have closed, and they have been told to basically stay where they are, that their vote will still be counted, even if the ballot centre has closed. If they are in the line, that they are still eligible to vote. Both camps, I should say, using social media to urge their supporters not to leave those lines and to make sure that their voice is heard at the ballot box.
And Trent, there were concerns raised about how voting would be handled in the earthquake zones. Do we know how that's gone?
Well, we saw large numbers of people return in many ways to some of those cities that were hit by the earthquake. In Hatay province, for example, we saw busloads of people going back to vote. That's important because under the electoral rules here, they have to vote in their home city where they are registered. Many of them have left those cities because the damage is just too great. A lot of those cities are virtually uninhabitable right now. But based on what we saw, folks there wanted to make sure that they could cast their ballot. I was actually down there earlier this week, and you would meet people who very much feel like the government helped them a lot and they wanted to vote for President Erdogan, but then there were a lot of other people who feel like the government let them down, that they may still be on a long waiting list to try and be rehomed, and really we're probably looking at today as a way to try and cast a protest vote, if you will, against President Erdogan. It was always going to be a tough fight for him. 20 years he has been in power. Trying to ask for another term after that long is difficult, no matter the circumstances. The earthquake, I think, certainly has shaken up the arithmetic in that region. Analysing those numbers as more results come in, I think, will be really key here to understand how those caught up in that disaster, the disaster of the century, as the Turkish media call it, how they will vote tonight, in this crucial election.
Many thanks indeed for that.